Hey everybody, welcome to Netflix Life, a streaming TV podcast from Fansided. I'm Bryce Olin. This is Cody Schultz. We're here to talk about what's new on Netflix in August 2023. Summer's winding down, but we did get some big info. I feel like what we should talk about. We were expecting this show to drop in July because that's when it had dropped previously. We were disappointed to learn that it wasn't coming back in July, but we do know the release date now, finally, and we're talking about Virgin River season 5. Cody, when can we watch the new episodes?
So this is technically a two-part answer because for the first time, Virgin River is technically being split into two parts. This is where things get complicated. I'm really interested to dive into this because
Mm-hmm.
the split of the seasons and how they're framing it is unlike anything we've seen for Netflix. But part one is coming September 7th, which this date had been announced, but then Netflix kind of walked it back. And so there was a little bit of confusion of like, is it going to be shifted?
No, it was
But
never going to be shifted. They
here we are.
accidentally leaked the release date and then said, "Oh no, wait, that's not the release date," because they wanted to do like a little special rollout, I think. And then, yeah, it
Yep.
didn't
So
happen. Did they
nope.
even get a special rollout? We just got some pictures.
Yeah, it just they dropped basically the teaser, dropped some well not the teaser, just like the synopsis about the season.
Hmm.
And then dropped the information, like some photos and all that good stuff. And no teaser, no trailer just yet. I'm sure that'll be coming in the weeks ahead, sometime probably in August, since the show's first part will be coming September 7th, which that is a Thursday release. So that's another first for the show. It's been a Friday show, and it's joining the long list of shows that is dropping on a Thursday with part one. And then there is a part two, which will be coming on November 30th, which is also a Thursday.
Yeah.
And so surprisingly, I'm honestly surprised they didn't do part two on the 23rd, a week before, just to have these out before Thanksgiving. Um, because I feel like that would have been a good choice because part two
Family
is
friendly viewing.
interestingly being billed as holiday episodes. So part one
Ooh.
will consist of 10 episodes, part two will only consist of 2 episodes, and they're being billed as holiday episodes. Um, I think this is creating some confusion of what that's going to look like, and I'm intrigued. To me, the split reads like part one is going to be the season. That is season 5.
Yeah.
We'll get the 10 episodes, the main story. And then I feel like part two, the 2 holiday episodes, might be self-contained of sorts. I feel like that's where my gut just keeps saying. We've seen other shows do that have had like holiday specials, especially ones that are somewhat similar in the vein of Virgin River. Wind Across
Yeah.
the Heart, which is a Hallmark show that's not, I mean, it's completely different in a sense, but same vibes basically. They always would do a holiday movie, or holiday like extended episode special, whatever you wanted to bill it as. And it was always counted as the last episode of the season, but it was always typically self-contained, built around a holiday storyline. You had like sprinkles of stuff that had happened from the season, but you didn't get like direct resolution to any like the big cliffhangers. And so I'm wondering if that's what Netflix could do with these 2 episodes. Because if they're holiday episodes, a time jump has to be coming because we're, I think, in the middle of summer still, and the show moves at the slowest pacing. Charmaine's been pregnant for 4 seasons. So,
We've covered 3 weeks of time in Virgin River over 4 seasons. Yeah, they better do like the season on September 7th and then the two-parter. That's what I think it's gonna be. It's gonna be probably like a special. Maybe there's some passage of time, like you said, that can like, I don't know. I don't know where the show is actually. Like, isn't it summer? It's kind of fall, I think. Technically, Virgin River season 4 will or season 5 will be like fall-ish, I think, based on like the Renaissance Fair episode and everything from season 4. I think that was season 4, right? Or was that season 3?
yeah, that was season 4, I believe.
Yeah.
Season 4 had a lot. Jack had spiraled. We thought he was missing for a day when he was just
Yeah.
sleeping in his truck.
He's just as
Uh,
one does. Yeah. No,
uh,
I'm excited though. 12 episodes with it, over the fall season. Um, I thought that when they said they kind of walked back that release date, I was thinking, oh, okay, they're gonna do 5 on September 7th or 6, and then do like a month later, October type deal. Um, or like a 5-5-2. That could have really been interesting because I think that what Netflix will find if they ever do this, dragging these shows out over several months is actually good. It keeps the interest so much higher than like dropping an episode, letting everyone and their mom watch it in one day or a weekend, and then like I mean, even revisiting it like a few months later for a holiday special. I think it'll keep Virgin River like in the forefront of people's minds, and then we already know season 6 is happening. It's already been renewed. If they ever, I mean, now it's just up to the AM PTP. I don't want to say it wrong. I think that's what it is. To make a deal with the writers and actors because this show is going to be delayed, just like everything else, if they don't do that. So yeah, that was
Yeah.
depressing. Let's go back and talk about the good part first.
Yeah, I mean, it is interesting. I think we've talked about how we wish Netflix would do holiday specials and that. So I feel
Hmm.
like this is the closest we're getting to that. And it is interesting because, of course, we've kind of come to pair and expect like Virgin River in the summer because season 3 and season 4 came out in the summer. Um, but the show did start as like a end of the year kind of show. Season 1 came in December of 2019. Season
Hmm.
2 came in November of 2020, I believe it was. So it started its run off in like the fall months and then moved to summer where it became an even bigger hit for Netflix. So I do think it's interesting and exciting to kind of see it somewhat returning back to the fall roots. It'll be interesting to see how it does traffic wise and like page view wise,
Yeah.
viewership wise.
Yeah.
But I think what could help it is we do have the strikes, and so the fall lineup for broadcast networks is pretty skim. And right now, it's a lot of reality TV. Very
Hmm.
few scripted shows are part of the fall schedule for the big five broadcasts: ABC, CBS, NBC, Fox, and the CW. And so I think people are going to be looking for new scripted shows that they can enjoy. And I think that's where streaming is going to kind of sneak in and get those viewers. Because yes, reality TV is great. I love reality TV, but there's only so much reality TV I feel like you can take at a time before you want something scripted. And so I think slotting Virgin River in at the start of September, typically when fall shows begin to return on
Right.
broadcast, it is a smart move for Netflix. Yes, it feels like a shady move because Netflix is a big part of the strike and why there's the holdout right now because the streaming services in general aren't paying the residuals where it's different for broadcast. So it kind of feels icky to say like, oh, Netflix is gonna luck out because yeah,
Yeah.
but
They have said stuff in the past though. Like I think it was Ted S. I think that he was the one that said like we're pretty well positioned because we have a lot of stuff like in the pipeline and stuff like that, which is like I guess like sure you have a lot of projects in the works. It's interesting too. So Netflix just shifted how they report viewership to the public. It used to be like the first 28 days. Now they've changed it to I believe it's 91 now how they're reporting. So like we saw a shakeup where Stranger Things season 4 was the biggest Netflix show ever. When they changed how they report, it switched, and so Wednesday actually took over that. I sorry, Squid Game's the biggest. It's not close to any of these American shows. Wednesday and Stranger Things. Interesting though with Virgin River season 5 because I think if I just did my math right in my head right now, so September 7th they dropped 10. There's that those next two episodes are in that like 90-day window. So I think that we'll see two giant bumps for Virgin River. Yes, they're doing some weird division of how many episodes are watched by the number of people who've actually watched it and hours and all that stuff. But I think that this one could be a sneaky top 10 potential all time for Netflix, just based on longer episode or the bigger season and dropping it at two parts. If you miss it in September, it might go away for a little bit. But I think that around the holidays, when people are looking for something family friendly or just like maybe have some time off work or something like that, it's pretty well positioned to do really well for Netflix, which again, like you said, a little icky, but
yeah.
it's just the
I'm
truth.
I'm curious to see. We haven't talked about the episodes themselves. They're just billing it
Yeah.
as holiday episodes. So I'm wondering
Uh-huh.
what that means. Like, are they going to do Thanksgiving and like Christmas time? Are they going to do Christmas time and New Year's? I feel like Christmas time has to be in there just knowing this show. That'll probably be one of the two holidays.
Hmm.
But then there's also like, could it just be all set around all three? Could they go from Thanksgiving to end of the year and kind of kick off that? It'll be really interesting to see what they do. Knowing this town, I can only imagine what kind of celebrations they do for like big holidays if they're throwing like huge festivals where everybody has these elaborate costumes for like Renaissance fairs. Uh,
Yeah.
so there was another one too
Do
that
we
they did
have
one season,
Doc? Oh, sorry.
Doc as Santa.
Yeah. Man, I hope so. Jack as like an elf. Do we got like a turkey drive, some toys, giveaways, stuff like that? I don't even remember. It's been a while since season 4. I don't even remember where the season ended. Do you remember?
Oh, how did season? Oh yeah, season 4 was the Charmaine drama. So she starts to have
Oh,
like something's not right, and then she's like, "Oh, surprise, Jack, you're not the dad after all."
that's it. Yep. And then
And
he's
that
like
was the
midlife
cliffhanger.
crisis. Yeah.
Yes. Which I
So,
mean, I think it writes them out of a corner because I think they were gonna have it was gonna be really awkward with Jack potentially having 3 kids
in
within
yeah,
a short
three
span of
babies
time.
in yeah, just from like a production perspective, one's enough, and hopefully they have good daycare and they can drop the baby off somewhere. That's all I'm gonna say. 3 kids at one time is tough. It's tough.
Yeah, so I it'll be interesting to see. Oh, and there was also the whole plot line with the drug lady going on who just had invested in Jack's Airstream
Oh
business.
my god, yeah.
That's right. That was the other
The
side thing with
Airbnb,
this one. Yeah,
Jack's
the
Airbnbs.
yes. We
Great.
found I can't remember I'm blanking on her name, but I remember she's like the drug lord, and we found out she's the sister to someone, and she invested in
Hmm.
Jack. So that's always I will say that is the thing that throws me with this show. It's
The
all
crime element.
and then yes, there's like drug lords and like potential murders and shootings, and
Uh,
it feels like two
so
different
there's
things at
real murder,
times.
right? The brother,
Yeah,
the
there's real
twin
murder.
brother of the abusive father. Yeah. So,
Yeah, it's definitely
oh
very all over
wait,
the place.
did the twin brother get killed too? The abusive parent was killed, right?
I think
Who died, Cody?
can't keep track.
It's the same person, so I have no idea. Anyway, we can cut
I
this
think it
part
was
out.
the brother. I think it was the
Yeah,
brother. I think he came to town and was like, "Where's
yeah,
my brother?" And they're like,
yeah. That's right.
"Sorry, he's
Yeah,
also dead."
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
think
Okay.
maybe that's wrong. We're gonna
Mm,
get fan messages. I promise I do watch this show. It's
uh-huh.
just I can't keep track of all the plot twists they throw sometimes. It's a lot,
Yeah,
even though it
it's
is in a
and
short
then
time.
yeah, like the pilot. Did that guy die? Did he survive the plane crash? Was there a plane crash? We don't know. It never said. It just moved on real
That
quick.
storyline was so I just have to imagine like Mel or not yeah, Mel or Sue. No, those are British baking host. That's the crossover I'm trying to manifest, I guess, in my mind.
Yeah,
Um,
Paul Hollywood shows up in Virgin River.
he
Crew.
sits, he comes to judge their holiday baking.
Oh my. I don't know why we are not in charge of this stuff.
Oh man.
um okay,
But
so Virgin River season 5, September 7th, 10 episodes. Part 2, which is holiday episodes, November 30th, the week after Thanksgiving. Um yeah, I guess everyone's gonna have to tune in. But first, we've got a bunch of Netflix shows coming in August. I'll just read through the list of every Netflix original show and movie coming in August 2023. We've got At Home with the Furies season 1, The Big Nailed It Baking Challenge season 1, Choose Love, Heart of Stone, Heartstopper season 2, The Lincoln Lawyer season 2, part 2, One Piece season 1, Painkiller season 1, Ragnarok season 3, Soul Catcher, Squared Love Everlasting, The Ultimatum, Marry or Move On Season 2. Ooh, that's spicy. The Upshaws Part 4. Who is Aaron Carter? Season 1. It's Erin, not Aaron Carter, Backstreet Boys. Or no, is Aaron Carter the Backstreet Boys? Anyway, we'll continue. You're so not invited to my bat mitzvah, and then Zombieverse Season 1. So a reminder, these are just the Netflix movies and shows coming in August. There are also some great comedy specials, documentaries, new family editions, and acquired titles coming as well. Okay. This is what we do next. We always just pick a few of the titles that we're most excited to see. I think the big one, returning shows. We've got The Lincoln Lawyer season 2 that comes out August 3rd. Are you excited for that one, Cody? We got, is it 5 episodes left?
Yep, we've got 5 episodes. This was one. It's still. I will say, I think they knew ahead of time that they were going to split season, and so it paid off for this one, where we actually had a cliffhanger right in the middle to keep people on
Mm-hmm.
like the edge of their seats, which was really smart. So yeah, the second 5 episodes of season 2 come August 3rd. When we ended the season's first part, Mickey had gotten like beaten up by two dudes in the garage when he was going to get some files from his Lincoln. And he ends the season like passed out on the concrete of the parking garage. And that's kind of the big cliffhanger is who were these men? We don't know yet who they were. There's insinuations, like we have guesses that it's something somehow connected to Lisa's case. But we don't know how. We know he pulls through. That's definitely wasn't a shocker. It's called the Lincoln Lawyer. He's the Lincoln Lawyer. He's not going to die or go into a coma in the middle of the season. That wouldn't probably bode well for the show when he is the lawyer. Um, but yeah, we get to see what's next, and we finally hopefully we'll get answers on what is going on with Lisa's case, which just for those who have forgotten in between the break between part one and part two, uh, Lisa is the chef that Mickey meets, I think in the premiere, who's then accused of murdering a developer, Mitchell Bond Bondurant. Yeah, I think that's who his last name was. Um, and so we were kind of in the middle of the case this time. We hadn't gotten resolution, but they really have done a good job of building up this back and forth of I do not know whether to trust Lisa or not. And so I'm really interested to see how it goes. I almost hope it goes. I'm kind of torn because to me, I'm like, would it be predictable to do back-to-back seasons where the person adamantly said, I'm not guilty and then was guilty? But then I'm like,
Mm.
would it also be predictable if they didn't go that? Because you're like, oh, well, the last person was guilty, so this one's not guilty. So I guess there's arguments either way, but I'm really excited to see how the case wraps. We kind of just started to get to the heart of things at that middle point of the season, and there's still so much to come in part two. I'll really be curious to see how they wrap it and how they set up a potential third season. It hasn't been renewed
Yeah.
just yet, but of course, this show is based on a book series. It's got multiple books in it. They've only adapted two so far, so there's definitely plenty of potential to continue adapting this. And it's a popular show. It does really well for Netflix. So I'm optimistic season 3 should be a shoe in. It'll be interesting to see how quickly we might get renewal news just with the ongoing strikes. But if nothing else, we should get an answer to the case, which is kind of the nice thing that they've been telling these self-contained stories within the season of getting the beginning, middle, and end of one case.
Yeah, that's I think that I'm most interested in just seeing how Netflix goes about like renewing this show, if they've already got like a secret behind the scenes renewal, how long that we'll have to wait with like the strike and stuff. Because I think that, especially after season 2, the cast usually renegotiates their contracts and stuff like that, which obviously I don't think will happen during the strike. So there's a lot of uncertainty. I do think though that Netflix needs a lot more shows, maybe not a lot more, but just more shows like this one that are not like, I don't know, that are not, I mean, it's high stakes, but it's like there's a clear like theme of every season. It focuses around a couple cases. There's like an overarching theme in like story that is like tying all them all together, but each case is individual. I think that that's super important to have just as like the do everything streamer. Like those shows are so important in keeping people subscribed. Like I don't think that I saw this one coming being as popular as it is, but it is super popular. There's a lot of people watching this show. And so I'm excited to see where it can go from here.
Yeah, I agree. This was kind of a sleeper hit last year. I remember
Mm-hmm.
when we all started watching it, different members of our team, myself included, like we were really surprised by it, like just how much we loved it and how fun and different it was
Mm-hmm.
than we had seen from anything else on Netflix. We say this in a good way. Some people could take it the other, but it really gave us like classic USA vibes of when White Collar Suits, which ironically is exploding on Netflix right now. Like it
Hey,
gave us those
interesting.
vibes. So it's not surprising now to see Suits is streaming on Netflix, the first 8 of the 9 seasons. and it's breaking all these streaming records and is doing so well and has been in their top 10. Because when that show came out, when Lincoln Lawyer came out, we were talking about how it gave us that vibe of like those USA
Hmm.
shows of the past that were just good dramas, but also had that humor mixed in. But I think the other thing that Netflix needs more of is shows they can turn around quickly. And this is one
Yeah,
that we
absolutely.
were shocked. Like there was hardly any news after it got renewed about season two, and then all of a sudden we got news season two's coming, and it's coming in two parts.
Yeah,
It was like we didn't even know they had finished filming. We didn't know any of that, and it didn't take them that long to turn out another season. And I think that's what Netflix needs. Is it's okay to have all these big shows like your Stranger Things and your Witcher and like those shows that take a lot production wise because they have all these special effects, but you need shows to keep people entertained between these shows that drop seasons every like 2 to 3 years. And I think The
yeah,
Lincoln Lawyer is proving it can be one of those shows of dropping a new season consistently every single year, because it's not that the production value is low, it's just that it's a rooted show. Like it's not got these big supernatural elements. So it's easy to film a season and turn it around quicker than it is some of these bigger shows that have a lot of special effects. So I think it's one that Netflix will definitely keep around for as long as they possibly can.
yeah. And I think that that's you basically just said what I was thinking in a much clearer and concise way. Is like the like it's not reinventing the wheel to be like, oh, people like procedural style, like not formulaic necessarily, but like it hits similar rhythm and beat. It has a similar feel to like other popular shows. Like people like things that are familiar that is not like exclusive to TV or movies. That's just like life, I feel like. So like it makes sense why the Lincoln Lawyer in Suits and all of these other shows do incredibly well on Netflix, because people like stuff like this. And so it's kind of like I think that the next thing is like, where is the medical drama from Netflix? Like it like how like Grey's Anatomy is doing well still for like 40 years, but like where I feel like that we're so close to like Netflix Med or something like that, you know?
I mean, given the success of Grey's Anatomy over the years on Netflix, I'm honestly shocked that they haven't tried to do their own medical
Yeah,
drama. I mean, it just makes
it's
sense.
like
It's like that's what's kept Grey's going on ABC, is that these new generations are always finding it on Netflix and starting from the beginning and diving in, so that when the new season's airing on broadcast, they're following along because they've binged it and they caught up on Netflix and they want more episodes. So it is surprising that Netflix has never tried to do its own medical drama. Maybe
you
we'll
know who
roll it
also
into.
has an overall deal with Netflix, Cody? Shonda Rhimes. Does she still have an overall deal? I'm pretty sure she does. So
Yeah, I think she's still under her deal. Yeah.
where's Grey's Anatomy 2? That's what I'm wondering. No, I'm just kidding.
It'd
Okay,
be
so
interesting.
interestingly, even more interestingly, Netflix is going where transitions are killing it. August 3rd, so that's the Lincoln Lawyer season 2 part 2. Heartstopper season 2 the same day. Interesting. Especially when the rest of the month, as I mentioned, all of those other new shows and movies, not that many in comparison to other, you know, I mean, the more recent episodes of the podcast we've done, the list is twice as long of new releases coming to Netflix. So why drop two of your best shows, biggest shows on the same day? Maybe there's not crossover among the audience, but it's just kind of puzzling that this is what we're doing, you know?
Yeah, I feel like it's a really interesting decision to make because yeah, Heartstopper was a pretty big success for them last season with its first
Mm-hmm.
season as well. And it's like, yes, there's other big shows coming, but they're kind of tiered out like across, and I feel like they could have easily put these two a week apart at least. Granted, it's nothing new for Netflix to release a new
Mm-hmm.
like comedy. Um, I don't know. I mean, yeah, I think Heartstopper, that's a fair draw. Like it's in that teen dramedy comedy kind of area.
Mm-hmm.
But we've seen them do it a lot because like Never Have I Ever got often paired the same release week as other big releases on the drama side.
Yeah.
So I mean it's not uncommon for them to drop things at the same week. It just feels like such a weird choice, especially knowing you'd want to keep audiences around and you'd think they would want to tier out some of their bigger shows. Um,
Right.
it's I don't know, it's puzzling. I almost wonder part of it was because they want to get ahead of a certain movie coming to Amazon on August 11th, which
Ah,
is Red, White, and Royal Blue. Which I
interesting.
feel like there is a lot of crossover with those two audiences. And so part of me wonders if that's why Netflix is running it out the first week. Because they're like,
I'll have,
let us get ahead of
yeah.
this.
I think we need to do a deep dive investigation into when Amazon announced RWRB release date and when Netflix was like, "Hey, wait a second." Because if it happened before, if it happened after Amazon was already like, "Here's when this is coming out," that's sneaky. That's a little like. I mean, it's fair, fair play all around, but it's also just because we know. I mean, this is like a very like as long as movies have been around, like studios going back and forth about like pairing different movies on the same day, going at it. Barbie and Oppenheimer, like show like there's a big light obviously shown on that because of like polar opposite ends of like the spectrum here of filmmaking. But to go in and try to steal the audience before to capitalize, to be like, there's another fun thing. It's like when they used to do like football documentaries and stuff around the Super Bowl or like seasons of football shows around the Super Bowl. They're like, I think that people might like football or whatever, or like Taylor Swift, I think, or Rihanna. They do stuff around like their big events. I guess that's just marketing, but yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, I feel like that I did play into it because if they had delayed it a week, it would have come out the day before. Um, so that might be them just trying to hedge their bets and not having two competing, like I said, because I'm sure both of these fans are going to tune into both of them. But I think there's a lot of crossover with those two titles, more than Lincoln Lawyer and Heartstopper. And so I do wonder if that factored into let's get Heartstopper out a week before instead of the same week or the week after. Because I also still admit I think Netflix Red, White, and Royal Blue feels like it could have been a Netflix movie. It even has stars that starred in Netflix movies. And I wonder if there's a bitterness of crap, we let this one slip through and now fans are very excited for it and it's going to Amazon instead of us. Um, but Heartstopper season two, I gotta stop myself from going down the rabbit hole for the other one.
Yeah.
Um,
With Cody, this is a Netflix podcast. Amazon Life
uh,
is tomorrow. No, I'm just kidding.
So Heartstopper season two, it is coming August 3rd, as you mentioned. We're gonna see Nick and Charlie. Their class is going to Paris this year, which is going to be interesting to see how that dynamic plays in. And it just I don't know. I'm really interested to see how season two shapes up. Season one was such a sweet, like perfect story. Um, and I think people are just excited to see more of Nick and Charlie and kind of see their relationship continue to develop now that they're officially together and what challenges as they have to approach different things. So I think it'll be another good season. I think fans will really enjoy it. um that first week will really be a busy week for Netflix, and then we kind of
Mhm.
go a bit before the next big release of the month. I mean, I do think the Nailed It baking show will
Mhm.
probably do well. It is different from what we've seen in the past. It's kind of a I see it as almost like Worst Cooks on Food Network, and that they take these bakers who
Right.
can't bake over the course of the season, they gradually learn, and like that's the whole point. Instead of just, oh, I did this and it's one offs we get to see, but
Mhm.
I think the
Look
other
at how bad this is, kind of. Yeah.
exactly, yeah, we get to see growth, which I'm excited. I think I'm going to check it out, and that one's. But I think the other big one comes at the very end of the month. And
Mhm.
that's the release of One Piece season one on August 31st. Netflix is on the promo train for this one, has been plugging it. It was their big flagship thing at To Doom. They plugged it every opportunity they have. They've dropped trailers and teasers. What do you think of this one though? I'm curious to see your
I'm
thoughts.
seeing, yeah, you're right though. Like you don't, I mean, Netflix does promote stuff like on social media, like, like you'll get sponsored stuff, but like Twitter or X or whatever it's called now, like I'm seeing a lot of promoted stuff and I'm like, is this my feed or like other people? Yeah, I think so. One Piece, it's based on, the manga of the same name. There's so many volumes of this. Like fans have been, I think it's been like, I don't want to misspeak, but like years and years and years of fans of this. There's the anime series with like I think there's like 700 dubbed English episodes, over 1,000 episodes um, in Japanese. So there's the audience is huge for this show. Netflix is making it live action. They filmed in South Africa, I think last year, and built all of these like extraordinary sets. I've seen, a few like the trailers. I saw one that didn't have a lot of CGI. The new ones look really good, but it tells the story of Monkey D. Luffy and the gang of Straw Hat Pirates as they're searching for the legendary One Piece treasure. So if you guys like pirates, which I do, you probably should check it out. What's interesting is like with a lot of anime adaptations and like not it's not weird. It's just bringing it to life. They're so like I don't know, have a certain style that is challenging to bring to the mainstream audiences, and there's a lot of little quirks and stuff that like when you're reading like a comic or a manga or whatever feel really cool and interesting, and then when you see them play out on like in live action can seem really cheesy and weird. And this show, it's I think it's right on like the sword's edge, if you will. It can really go either way. We saw, what was it, Cowboy Bebop was another one, super famous anime, comes to Netflix in live action with like a stellar cast. I really thought that they nailed that aspect of it, but like the story just wasn't there, and like the audience specifically was not there to like make it a hit, for Netflix. And that's what Netflix is kind of banking on with One Piece. It's getting a pretty big like summer release slot. I feel like kind of a make or break. Like there are rumors that like this is one of the most expensive Netflix shows of all time. There's other rumors that they had to go back and reshoot a lot of stuff because it wasn't up to snuff, and so it really is going to be interesting to see how this goes. I'm super excited for it. I think it looks awesome from like a fantasy perspective, but the kicker is like fantasy typically doesn't perform super well on Netflix. I think Shadow and Bone did okay season one. Sweet Tooth did okay. I guess Sweet Tooth, it's fantasy in my mind. Did okay season one. Season two was not that great in terms of like overall performance. It's already been renewed and filmed for season three. Trying to think of some other ones. The Witcher, huge season one opening. Not really sure who finished it. It got better with season two and season three, in my opinion. So but even still, like it's not cracking. It's on the top 10, but it's not getting into like those huge like the Night Agent, Outer Banks, Ginny and Georgia numbers, Wednesday that we've Stranger Things that we've seen recently. So um it has a huge fan base all over the world. I've talked to her forever about this, but it could be like I could see it really going like we could go Squid Game level big if it's good. It great, I guess. It could go like Cowboy Bebop, and I really flip a coin. I really don't know like what it's gonna do. I haven't seen it though. I haven't got screeners yet. I'm really excited. I'm hoping Netflix sends some stuff out so we can see it early and like kind of gauge where things are though soon.
Yeah, I mean, treasure and pirates, I mean, that seems like it's my jam. That's Outer Banks and
Yeah,
described in
but
a few
weirder.
words. But
Weird.
yeah,
It'll be weird. Yeah.
I mean, I
Yeah.
agree. Every time I've seen promo for this one, I keep going back to Cowboy Bebop and like how similar it is. Like Netflix pushed that one so hard, did a big promo hoping it would be like their
Hmm.
first big
Got a
like
holiday
hit,
release.
and
Yeah.
it flopped
Hmm.
so hard. I mean, it was canceled, I think, wasn't it? Very, very
Like
fast
within
after.
a
Like,
month. Yeah, like a
yeah,
month came. Like it was like oof. Yeah, and it wasn't
yeah,
like so bad, but like it just really is challenging. I feel like the same thing with Avatar: The Last Airbender, which was supposed to come out this year, but it has been pushed to 2024. Like that's not anime necessarily, but like I think that there's a lot of similarities and like with these big world building shows with like the tech that they're using to film it and how expensive like it has to be like massive to for Netflix just how they do business to justify getting another season. Like they want a certain number, and if it doesn't hit that number, it doesn't go anywhere usually, unless they like really have invested. Like The Witcher is one where it's like I don't know how the viewership necessarily reflects how well that show's doing, but that one's got like prequels and sequels. Like they've really invested in the world of that show. One Piece could be similar. They're going, the cast is a little bit less well known if known at all, like truly, like so there's not a lot of huge stars, and if like they skew younger, like it's a lot of young adults in the show, um, which we've seen can go really either way too. So I don't know. Pirates
Yeah.
though, gotta love them.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I think it's hard. It's easier to adapt a live action into animated because then you can do more. It's the flip side when you're going from animation into live action because suddenly things you can
Mhm.
do animation, it's not as easy to pull off in live action and it does not always look good. And so making it
Yeah,
look good is the hard thing too. And I feel like that's where some of these shows that we've seen in the past that have been adaptations of an animated series or movie, they struggle because fans are comparing them to the source materials. And when the effects aren't there, they go, oh, wait, this looks bad. Like they shouldn't have done this. And it's going to be
yeah,
really interesting because I feel like there's fans are also very protective of this show and this like IP.
absolutely.
And so I think there's like, if the fans aren't into it right at the start in that first episode, it will turn quickly on them and
Yeah,
they will be very vocal. And I know this is an audience that will be very, very vocal.
that's the hard thing too, because a lot of Netflix, like you take like Squid Game, which was like really word of mouth, like didn't get a lot of promo, and by a couple weeks in, maybe 2 months in, it's like literally everyone in the world is talking about this show on social media and stuff, and it's just going up and up and up. Where I feel like that we've seen the opposite can happen if that initial reaction is like, "Oh, this sucks. It's the worst thing ever." Like it can really tank a release. And it's hard to say. It's like, is it the like chicken or the egg? Is it like, is it because everyone says this sucks that people don't watch it, or does it actually suck, and that's why people are watching it? You know what I mean? Like, it's hard to say exactly, but I feel like that initial reaction can really turn people off to being like, oh, I heard this was bad, I'm not going to check it out, or oh, I heard this was really good. Is like the other part of it that when that happens, can like we've seen it so many times on Netflix specifically, is like when you have 200 million subscribers and like I want to without the password sharing, like almost every person I would bet had some access to like Netflix access in some capacity with their family friends stealing people's accounts. Like that happened to me. um, but yeah, like like stuff like that, like it can really like you can get really huge numbers, like the Night Agent coming out of nowhere to pull off like one of the biggest Netflix releases of all time that like I'd never even heard of it before the week before it came out, you know?
Yeah, I think what we've kind of landed on is there's going to be no middle ground for this one. Either it's going to be a
Mm-mm.
big hit for them or we're going to be looking at another big flop. So fingers crossed it goes the first direction and is a good hit and the fans really love it and it's the adaptation they've hoped for. If
Yeah,
not, I don't think I think it's time Netflix
thoughts and
maybe
prayers.
moves away from anime.
I think that this is like the shot. Like we've
Hmm.
seen, I guess they still, like I said, it's not anime genre, but like Avatar: The Last Airbender's already been in, so like they got really two chances here, and I think they'll probably go away from like a lot of um just adaptations like that anyway, even if these are successful, and they're just hoping that these could be like the next like Game of Thrones. Like I think that or like Stranger Things with
Hmm.
that ending soon. Like these are kind of the bankroll is huge, so it's got to work out.
Yeah.
Um,
I
I don't. I
mean,
was trying to think of a clever transition,
I
but
mean,
I got
speaking of
nothing
things
here.
having to work out, this one we do
Oh,
have
here we
another
go.
big
Yeah,
test thing.
there we go.
Ironically, also on August 31st, Netflix is dropping their a new rom-com movie called Choose Love, and it's their very first interactive movie, where basically viewers get to decide the ending.
Hmm.
So there's the story is Laura Morano, who has starred in several Netflix movies, um, in the past, stars as a woman named Cammy, whose fate is ultimately decided by the viewer. So across the movie, there will be different options that you can take the story in different directions. There's multiple endings, all based upon what you pick. And the heart of the rom-com is basically exploring which relationship you want to see win in the end, I guess is work out in the end
It's
when
like
seems competitive, but
real time shipping.
yeah, it pretty much is. It's like when you're watching, it's like, who do you want to see this character with? And there's three options that'll get to play out across the movie. There's the current boyfriend named Paul, a British rock star named Rex, and then her first love who got away named Jack. So you get to, I'm very curious to see. We haven't gotten a trailer yet for it as of the filming of this episode. Very little is known beyond that initial interactive element. Um, it'll be interesting to see how this one's received and how audiences perceive it, just since they could be talking about very different endings when it comes to like social media. Like, oh, I love that
Yeah,
she ended up with this person. They're like, wait a minute, I got her to end up with this person. It just sounds
it's like a video game
chaotic.
movie. Yeah. Uh,
But
I
I
don't know
will
how
be
to feel
there.
about this. Yeah, I'll probably check it out just because I like to see how it functions and stuff like that. I'm not like super into like I just would rather be confident in your story and tell me what the story is that you have. Don't let me choose. I don't want to be the one with the remote.
It's kind of giving um look both ways vibes, and that one kind
Yeah.
of explored, it wasn't an interactive one, but we got to kind of see like two directions, like if, with the main character who was played by Lily Reinhart from Riverdale. We got to see like these two different directions of like a pivotal moment in her life. In one
Mhm.
direction she goes in one way, and then another direction she goes in a different one. And so you kind of see these two timelines converging at once as the movie plays out, which it was really interesting, really well done. It kind of gives me some shades of that,
Yeah.
with like that exploring the kind of concept of what if, like how one decision can change, kind of like that butterfly effect, I think is the correct term for it. Of
Uh-huh.
how like one decision can change the outcome. And so it's an interesting concept. I'm just really curious to see how it works out, um, and how it's received. And who knows, maybe it'll be the start of something new for Netflix and they'll have a ton of these coming, or it might be a one-off, kind of like what we saw with Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt's interactive special.
Yeah.
But
Or
either way,
Black Mirror,
it
whatever that
should
was
be
called.
should be interesting coming at the end of the month. So two gambles for Netflix, definitely ending August
Yeah.
with One Piece and Choose Love. Also two very different titles. So, I mean, if you're looking for something different, you have two very, very
Yeah.
different options.
I think we missed one. I didn't write down the it's coming August 11th, but the one that I think of all of these that could be, I mean, One Piece biggest potential, also most likely to flop. Same if we're doing like what are those things called in the yearbooks?
Superlatives.
Yeah, there we go. I was looking for it. Jimmy Fallon. Uh but it's called Heart of Stone and it's Gal Gadot action spy thriller August 11th. I think this one, I mean, she's the star of the biggest Netflix movie of all time, Red Notice, and we got another action, not comedy though. I wonder if that will play a role. But are you excited for that one, Heart of Stone?
Yeah, I'm really excited for this one. I love Gal Gadot, and Red Notice was great. Granted, totally different vibes, like you said. That one
Mm-hmm.
leaned into the comedy side of the spy thriller. This is very much giving dramatic. I mean, it's all about like shadowy peacekeeping and stopping a hacker from stealing a dangerous weapon, and so it's definitely giving more intense vibes. But I think it's going to be really fun. Definitely a really great movie. I'm trying to think what's coming in the box office in August on like just theatrical. I think this will get a limited theatrical release, as
Mm-hmm.
well, in addition to arriving on Netflix. But I feel like this is one that Netflix feels very confident about too. We've seen them promote this heavily. I think they promoted it last year to Doom, just when it was in the early stages. It was one
Yeah.
of their central things at the To Doom event in Brazil this year. They really leaned into it and really just heavily promoted this one. And I think it's got a lot of promotion, not a promotion. It has gotten a lot of promotion, a lot of potential, to hit for them. And I think this is a genre Netflix is seeing works well for them. I mean, the
Mm-hmm.
Extraction films have paid off. Those were kind of big action movies.
Yeah.
Red Notice was a big hit. Granted, each one has had its own unique difference, but you've kind of had that underlying aspect of somehow action. This one's a spy thriller.
Yeah.
And I think it'll be probably their biggest movie of the month, maybe of the summer.
Right. I think The Gray Man too was another
Hmm.
one with the Russo bros. I think they wrote that. Maybe directed it too. Uh Yeah, definitely. I think it's gonna be the biggest of the summer. I off the top of my head, I think Extraction 2, maybe The Mother is bigger than Extraction 2. I can't remember. But that was like May. I don't know if that counts as summer. It counts as summer, but it doesn't really.
I keep forgetting about The Mother. I have to be
uh
honest, I'm so disappointed that was an action movie. You get Jennifer Lopez and we don't get a Netflix rom-com. Like, what were they doing?
yeah,
I hear The
two.
Mother and think like rom-com right away.
She would be, yeah. If they could get J Lo for a rom com, I think that they would. I think they probably could maybe after the success of that one. The Mother too. I don't know if that's gonna happen. The Stepmother. I've got lots of ideas. But what was I gonna say? Oh, Heart of Stone. Oh, they cloned Tyrone. I thought that was gonna be bigger. Apparently, it's not getting like people aren't watching that, even though it's like
They
number one.
they fumbled the ball
Yeah,
with that one. They should never have
yeah,
released that the weekend that
the
Barbie and
same day.
Oppenheimer were releasing. Like, what were they thinking? Like, not
I
like
don't know.
it has been a very long time since we've seen such a hype around two very different movies like we saw with Barbie and Oppenheimer.
Hmm.
And I think they did that movie no service by dropping it the exact same weekend when people were actually
Yeah,
going out to theaters for the first time in forever to see these two
yeah,
movies. It's like you set yourself up for failure, and it's like you could have just delayed it a week, released it a week early. I feel
yeah,
like because this is one that's been in development for so long. Like they were talking about it to Doom last year. We talked about it to
yeah.
Doom this year,
Hmm.
maybe even to Doom the year before last. Like I feel like it's been in
Yeah.
development for so long, and then they
It's
just kind of bury it in the middle of one of the biggest box office weekends that we've had in
yeah,
months.
that's tough. Yeah. It's really good though. I watched it. Sorry, there's a fly flying around me. But there it was really, really good. Like I was very impressed. We talked about it last month on the pod, just like of how we were excited to see all of these you know, basically super actors at this point. I think that all of them have been in like franchise leading um roles. And so it's a bummer. I'm hoping that that word of mouth buzz starts to help it a little bit, because it's really really good. But yeah, I think that Heart of Stone, I would say with Gal Gadot. I don't know, maybe not Red Lotus or Red Lotus.
Notice.
What did I say? Red Notice. God.
That's the Netflix HBO crossover we're trying to manifest.
Hey, we are about to talk about an HBO show coming to.
We are.
But
Unfortunately, not
yeah,
White
so I think
Lotus, but
not White Lotus. That's gonna stay on HBO Max or Disney Plus or wherever it is. It's on Max. I know where it is. But yeah, Heart of Stone. Check it out, August 11th. We've got some other notable titles that are coming, and I don't know. This was tailor made for me. I feel like we got Despicable Me 1 and Despicable Me 2. Huge fan of the franchise. We've got Fast and the Furious 1 through 5, Cody. I don't know if this has ever happened on Netflix before. We usually get like 1 through 3, maybe Fast Four thrown in there. Um, so I'm super excited about those. Ugly Betty, seasons 1 through 4, and then Ballers, the HBO show with Dwayne the Rock Johnson, seasons 1 through 5. I really don't like that show. I got food poisoning one time in Mexico, and it was the only English channel on the TV, and it was a marathon for 2 days in a row. I watched Ballers, and I will never watch another episode.
I mean, could the show change the hierarchy of the Netflix strategy? I don't think so.
No.
I mean, The Rock was in Red Notice, so there's that connection of
Yeah,
that. But
I think
uh,
it'll be a top 10. It'll be on the Netflix top 10 for sure. I have no doubt about it. All of the things that we mentioned, I think just then will be on the Netflix top 10.
yeah, I think fans will flock to it. I mean, it's the latest in like the line of HBO shows that are starting to come to Netflix. Of
Hmm.
course, we saw Insecure come in July. Now Ballers is coming in August. It'll be interesting to see what could come next after these two and like what else might be in the pipeline of coming their way. We know there's others coming. Um, but yeah,
Why? Can I ask you a question?
yeah.
Why do we subscribe to Max? Why is it a thing at this point? If they're selling all of their shows to or licensing all of their shows to Netflix, like what is going on?
If you figure out the answer, let me know.
Yeah,
I still am hung up
yeah.
on like this is my roast because it fell on the perfect day. I have flubbed it so many times today talking about Max. I have called it HBO
Mhm.
Max. I don't know why
Yeah,
we dropped the name. I think HBO was your branding there. That's what recognized people. That's why people are watching your streaming service. They're tuning in to have access to the HBO shows.
Yeah.
They're using Max to watch The White Lotus, to watch The Last of Us, to watch House of the Dragon. Like that's where your branding comes in, and I don't see why they dropped it. When I hear Max, I think of Max from Stranger Things, not Max the service. So I don't know. It's a very interesting choice. I think the problem was with streaming, not to go on a very long tangent, but the
Yeah.
problem with streaming is there's too much of it. I think all these studios decided they wanted to get in on a streaming service, launch their own. Now we're seeing them struggle because they're losing money as studios, not selling and licensing their shows to streaming services like they used to
Uh,
because they're putting them in house. And so before, where Netflix would pay you, I mean, what was that? At one point, what did they pay for Friends? It was huge, the
like
Friends in the Office
400 or
deal.
500 million. Yeah.
And
Uh-huh.
it's like you lose that by pulling it back to your own streaming service. I mean, I think I saw Peacock is getting ready to lose $3 billion this year. And it's like, I understand everybody wanted to be part of the streaming game. I think that's why, it was, like, it was always going to happen. Like, all of the studios were going to try to get into
Hmm.
this. They weren't going to let Netflix be the only one. They weren't going to let, Amazon and Hulu become the three there. But I think that's just, we're seeing that's the struggle. And that's why so many of these shows are getting pulled now from their streaming services, because they're not getting any money to keep them on there. They're having to pay the money to keep them on there, although we know they're not paying the writers and the actors, so I don't know how they're
Right.
paying. It's like it's a whole big mess, but it's just, I don't know. It feels like there needs to be a reset. Like will see some of these starting to fall out. I keep waiting to see what's going to be the next streamer to fall, just because it doesn't seem beneficial for the studios to just put everything on their own platform when they could be selling those rights to another party and making more
Yeah.
cash. Like Warner
Yeah.
Brothers, like they could be selling movies like The Flash that flop at the box office to try to make money by having Netflix pick up a deal, but instead they just
Yeah.
go right to Max, and it's like, is anybody watching it on Max? Probably not.
Hmm.
So we didn't go see it in the
I
theater.
know. It's like so it was like so painfully obvious when this was happening. Like I remember you and I talked about it like years ago, being like, I don't mean to like upset the powers that be, but like, how is Warner Brothers paying, like, not accepting a check for 500 million for Friends, yet they're going to put it on their own streaming service and probably have to pay their own producers some cut. Someone who made that show or put the money forward gets some payment. Like they can't just keep it. Well, maybe they don't, is what we figured out. But I thought someone got paid along the way. Uh, but I was just like, this is like, how are they just like, are they really going to make $500 million off of Friends putting it on their own platform, or would it be better to put it on Netflix for 4 years or whatever to let people watch it and then cash in on the popularity down the line, with like merch and stuff like that they own still? Like it felt like it makes sense because it's like, yeah, what do you eventually Netflix becomes so big and then they don't pay 500 million for it. They pay 10 million because there's no other competition down the line. But like in the short term, it seemed so much, or like so obvious that like, oh, maybe people don't have this much money to pay for 17 different streaming services and like that be profitable for you as a company. Like whoever survives, I think it'll work. I think Netflix, and this is probably one of the reasons that they're in no hurry to resolve the strikes and stuff, is like they are going to probably win the streaming wars, quote unquote. Like who's best positioned? It's Netflix, Disney, and then probably Amazon, because they have literally so much money that like they could maybe Apple, but like I
No
could see
one's
them
talking about Apple.
folding.
That's the problem.
Yeah, yeah.
Like
I
they
mean,
have big
either.
shows, but aside from like Ted Lasso, like you don't hear anybody talking passionately about an Apple
Yeah,
original, even though the people
no,
that do, they say they're great shows, but it's just there's
right.
not that same audience there. And yeah, I
Mhm.
completely, it's I don't know, it's gonna be really interesting to see how things go in these next several months too, I think, with the strikes,
Mhm.
and how those will affect some of these different studios. But yeah, I think at a certain point we're gonna see some of them have to start folding. I mean, we've already seen it in
Yeah.
some. I mean, Discovery Plus merged into Max and became just one platform there, I believe. I don't think they're
Mhm.
still on their own thing. Maybe they are, who knows. I know there's talk of Apple could potentially buy Disney, is like a rumor that
Mhm.
we've already floated by. And it's like, if that happens, what happens with Apple Plus and Disney Plus? Do they just become one giant plus
Yeah.
sign together? It's just
antitrust laws get involved.
yeah.
Powers that be, I don't know if would let that happen. They probably would, but like that's huge. That would be crazy. That would be
Yeah.
like,
I mean, Disney already
um,
owns enough on its own. Like, it's crazy to think of how much they've let Disney buy over the years.
yeah,
I mean, because Disney owns
in
so much of this entertainment market.
yeah, in there talking about like Disney selling off like spare parts for scraps or whatever, like because that's like the linear TV might not be or the future. All right, it's like, are you posturing or like, do you really believe that? I'm talking about Bob Iger. He said some stuff, a lot of stuff.
Yeah,
But
I
yeah,
feel
it's
like
really interesting. Like, it's such a weird time to
it
be
is.
like, well, a human, one, two, covering entertainment and trying to like maintain a positive attitude about anything. It's like very like, I don't know. There's a lot of good stuff coming to Netflix this month, though. That's where we should probably end it.
I know what you mean because it's hard because as a fan of the stuff, of course you want to promote and like,
Mhm.
but it's definitely interesting like when you see the actors and the writers behind these shows that we love out there having, fight just for fair wages and to just be paid for the work that they're doing. When you look at these CEOs' salaries, and it definitely does not look good when they're like launching. So many of them have been. It's like, what are you thinking? Launching these like multi six-figure AI jobs in the midst of a strike where the problem is AI, and it's like just look at your optics. It's not very good. And but if you're looking for stuff to watch and to support the actors and the writers, there's a lot of good
Mhm.
stuff coming. And I feel like that is the one thing is just keep promoting them because it helps support their argument that this is the fans. Because if we start turning away, the studio's gonna be like, look, no one's watching. That's why we're not paying. And so that's where I'm latching on. It's just I've got to support the things that I love because that's how we can, at least in a small grain of sand picture in the big bucket, uh, promote them. So watch these shows,
Yeah.
enjoy them, tweet about them,
One
and
Piece,
yeah.
August 31st.
I feel like okay, last
And the
before we
Fast and
break, we
yeah,
need to
uh-huh.
weigh in. Bold prediction. Are you team do you think it's gonna flop or do you think it's gonna hit?
I think it's gonna hit. I think my gut is telling me hit because I want it to. I think that I've tricked my mind into be like, this is a hit. I think it's gonna work. I do think like there is a chance that like it 55% hit, 45% flop. That's what I'm going with. It's not 50-50. I said 50-50 earlier. It's not quite there. I think that it'll make enough people happy that it will do well. I don't think though, how do I say this? That some of the elements will connect with like normal, like I just check into Netflix every, few days, like in my time off or whatever. Like, I don't think that it's going to be like that. I think it's going to be really passionate from the fans, but I don't know if it's going to be like Squid Game, you know?
Yeah.
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 That would be hard. But even the thing is like a lot of these like Netflix things, like Stranger Things started so small and then became massive. Same with Squid Game was like pretty small show becomes massive. Then they kind of look around and go, okay, what do we do next? It's like there examples of hits for Netflix where they started big and got bigger? I don't know.
Yeah. I think it's gonna
I
flop.
don't know.
So,
Yeah. We
I
have differing
I maybe I'm
perspectives.
putting it out there because I tend to get it wrong more. So I'm like trying to do reverse psychology that it'll flop and it'll actually be a hit. But I don't know. My gut's telling me that these fans are going to pick it apart, unfortunately. Even though I mean I'm gonna check it out and I don't even know anything about
Yeah.
the stuff that inspired the source material, but I
Mhm.
feel like Netflix has burned this genre too much that they're just not gonna have it. Even if it is really great, I think they'll be nitpicky with it, unfortunately, is my fear. Just because they've not exactly given them the win sometimes in the past with like Cowboy Bebop
Right.
and some of the others. So I
Yeah.
hope to be wrong, but my gut is saying this one could be a miss.
Yeah.
So we'll run this
Leave it.
tape when we film the August episode and
Yeah.
talk about September. We'll see who was right.
Yeah, we'll know right away, I feel like, whether what
Yeah.
we're looking at. But okay, so One Piece August 31st. Thanks everyone for listening and we'll see you next time.